My name is Mark Peterson. I teach biology at Bindle St. Margaret's, and this is just a quick introduction to the second semester course. Some of your students are new to me this semester, and so I just thought I'd have an opportunity to kind of introduce the course and a little bit about how the course runs. These are the four big ideas that we cover throughout the year in biology, and back in the day when you sat in biology class, it was all about the content. And that's really what I'm going to talk about with regards to what scientists know. And there's been a lot of shift and change in science education over the course of my career, which has been long, and it's been long. Anyway, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So the first thing I want to focus on are the science practices. And these are things that scientists do. So beginning with asking questions, using models, conducting investigations or experiments, analyzing data, and there's so much data to be analyzed now, using mathematics, constructing explanations based on evidence, arguing from evidence, and eventually communicating. So these 8 things are called the science practices, and these are what scientists do. And so you're going to see a lot of information from me talking about the science practices, and these are the things that I'm asking your students to do because that's what biologists do. Then there are the things called the cross-cutting concepts, which are how scientists think. So they're always thinking in terms of not necessarily content, but big ideas like causes and effects, systems, and how systems can be used to model things in the real world that maybe are too big or too small to mess around with. Energy and matter flowing through nature, stability and change, the relationship between structure and function, scale and proportionality, and the patterns that we see in organisms, living things, behaviors, all kinds of stuff. So these are the cross-cutting concepts. These are how scientists think. And so I'm going to focus a lot on curiosity, and really there's been a big shift, and I've really moved my classroom from learning about things into trying to figure things out. I think that those are really important skills to send our students, critical thinking skills. I know that's an overhyped, overused word in education, but it's really important in terms of thinking what scientists do, what they know, and how they figure things out. We're going to do a lot of lab work, and so the reason we do lab work is it spurs the parts of your brain that make you curious. And so over on the left-hand side is a brain scan that shows parts of your brain that get activated when you provide the opportunities to ask questions. One of the things that I found this year, and really last year, is a change in learners. And I'm not going to blame it completely on the pandemic, but I think a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. And learners have really become dependent on their teachers. And I've really been trying to move students from dependent learners into independent learners. It's a challenge. This is, again, the business of the, and I'm just going to go through, you can take a look at this and pause if you want. All these things that are where students are dependent, and I really am trying to force them and move them to these places where they're independent learners and responsible for their own learning. So the business of relying on me to being able to retrieve long-term information and skills that they've practiced over time in my classroom. So I'm really trying to shift people from being dependent learners into independent learners, and that can be frustrating for students because they've been reliant on teachers for so long. But we got to move them to be independent learners. Just a good lifelong skill. Schoology. This is something that I created in the fall. Hopefully you're familiar with it. On Schoology, I have a Google slide that links to everything that's in Schoology. This is at the top of the page. Every day I post what's going on in the classroom on a slideshow, so you can see what's happening if you have access to Schoology. There's also hyperlinks into Google Classroom, which is the transactional aspect of my class. That's where students turn things in. So they can click on a particular box on Schoology, and it takes them to where the resources are. With regards to the science practices and the cross-cutting concepts, the way the assessments are going to happen and the way that information goes between myself and the students is kind of like this little spreadsheet here. So if you look on the left-hand side, you can see some assignments. So the learning opportunities, Lab 1, CER, which stands for Claim, Evidence, and Reasoning, and so on down the left-hand side. Across the top are the 8 different science practices that I referred to at the beginning of the screencast. And then as you look on the right-hand side, going down is time. So Lab 1 occurs early in the semester, Lab 7 occurs late in the semester. And then I'm always trying to encourage students to look at their work, be reflective, with feedback to make some changes. So I use the terms beginning to understand, developing, proficient, or exemplary. So at the beginning of a unit, beginning of a semester, maybe they know a little bit about stuff, so they have some developing information or developing knowledge or developing skills. And then we just practice as we go over time. And as you look going down time, you'll notice that things become more green as you approach the bottom because they've had more practice. And so in the grade book, you're going to see a science practice progress grade. Some students coming in from first semester, their science practices progress grades are just hitting the ground running, since these are things I focused on first semester, so they're doing pretty well with that. Those of you that are new, those students that are new, they're playing a little bit of catch up, but they're doing a great job, and so I've been really pleased with that. So anyway, that's a little bit about the course. The reason I'm sending this out has to do with parent-teacher conferences coming up here in a week or so, and this is going along with an email. So my name is Mark Peterson. It's mpeterson@BSM School if you have questions about stuff, and I look forward to having conversations with you about your students. Thanks.